I was fortunate to grow up in an environment where I was encouraged and recognized for my abilities, achievements, as well as my aspirations and positive attitude. I grew up during the first wave of racial integration. Here's a few of the challenges that this new landscape presented. So first, I got the message that I need to be twice as good to get half as much recognition. Second, my attitude and abilities needed to be evenly matched. You never knew when you would need to rely on one or the other at any given time. Self-doubt was suppressed. Third, some of my peers succumbed to the pressures resulting in low self-esteem, low self-efficacy, disempowered attitudes overshadowing boundless abilities. Now, on the positive side, I was prepared for the challenges, whether from outside or within. I learned how to persevere and see myself as capable of nearly anything. It was a number of years before I experienced the discomfort of questioning my ability. Fortunately, having years of family and community support, cultivating my self-esteem, helped me prepare for facing potential limits to my abilities. After achieving my milestone of 50 years of living, I had a memorable experience in which my attitude had to come to the rescue of my limited abilities. I was a co-leader of a group of young people who ventured to Scouters Mountain. Anybody familiar with Scouters Mountain? So back in the day, it had a ropes course. It apparently doesn't have it anymore. And so they were there to conquer the high ropes course. I was feeling young and confident in my physical and mental abilities. I'm still only 50. And eagerly accepted my role as a leader and model for conquering challenges. I was doing quite well, going through each of the challenges the course offered, showing that you could conquer your fears and perceived limitations until I was on the last challenge before the final reward of sliding down the zip line. So I have a few pictures so you can get an idea about what this looks like. So picture number one. So that's this kind of a picture of a ropes course, high ropes course, and it's way up in the air. In this challenge, I had to swing across multiple planks in a kneeling position, somewhat like picture number two. However, without the option of standing. So like picture number three. The person in the middle, not the one sitting on the side going, you can make it, you can make it. All right. By the time I got to this feature, my arms were on fire. About halfway through the two platforms, I reached the limits of my ability. I was over 50. I had nothing else to prove to the students or to myself. So I called for assistance and rescue, something that they assured was available before we ever started the course. However, I was 30 feet in the air, and I was 15 feet from either platform. To my disappointment, the staff person said, "Sir, we don't have a way to rescue you from that spot. We don't have a ladder that high. If you can get to one of the platforms, we can rescue you from there." This is like a young person. My inside voice said, if I could get to a platform, I wouldn't need to be rescued. My outside voice said, could we call the fire department? They walked away. So I guess the answer was no. I sat there for about 20 minutes, arms still burning from fatigue, convinced that I could not get to the either platform, and hoping they would take my request for a fire department rescue seriously. None of these things came to pass. I eventually tapped into my attitude of not giving up and seeing myself as capable, as I had learned when I was young. I finished the obstacle course and took that refreshing ride down the zip line. The challenge course had fulfilled its purpose for me and for the youth who got to watch me tap into my attitude to overcome my obstacles.
Today's reading is by Robert Frost, a wonderful poet and author. This is The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all difference. I love that story. I still remember something my high school band director told us over and over, and I love that you shared about playing the bass. That's super rad. The classical bass anyway, that's almost as niche as playing the oboe or the bass clarinet or something, anything double reeds. I saw you instrumentalists giggle. So it's something he would say over and over. Also, it's the name of the service. He would say, attitude is more important than ability. At first, I wasn't sure I believed him, to be honest. What I mean by that is in high school band or various collected, group bands, whether it's marching band, jazz band, pep band, you know it. You've got to be able to read sheet music, keep time, make sure you play all the right notes. So I would argue with him internally at that point, like, you're wrong, ability matters. But what he really meant was attitude shapes everything else. So a musician approaches things with a good attitude. They're willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to try again. They will grow so much more than someone who's just naturally talented, doesn't want to show up, doesn't want to practice, doesn't want to be part of the group, doesn't plug in. I know, right? He encouraged us to take this concept to heart, and we tried to, as much as our underdeveloped frontal cortexes would allow us anyways. I can remember just countless times coming to Mr. Man was his name, and to tell him, how awful my life was, who had wronged me, that I had too much homework, some dilemma going on at home. And every time he would listen to me and help me adjust my attitude about the situation. But I have to see now that he didn't fix anything. He would offer gentle ways to kind of deal with what was coming at me and to add good things where I could. I would leave his office in the same life situations, but much better equipped with a different perspective. And I would turn that negative energy into something positive towards myself. Usually for me, that was disappearing in the practice room and learning some obscure piece of music, from 18 whatever it was, and a composer who died falling down a flight of stairs to come out and say, look at this cool random thing. But that's just me. But that lesson has stuck with me now more than 20 years, if I think about it. Because it never really was about the music, though. It was about life, and I can never thank Mr. Man enough for that. I have found personally that ability does only take you so far. But being willing to show up, give my best, try again and again, and treat others with the respect and kindness, that is what has actually carried me farther and farther than simply being able to do something, than ability alone. I do want to clarify, though, when I say having a good attitude, I don't mean putting on like a fake smile, pretending that everything's fine. We know things are not fine. The climate shifting in really scary ways. Our politics are polarized, to say, the least about it. Violence and hate speech, they're all what the headlines are made of. And I know even personally, a lot of us are carrying struggles within our families, workplaces, and just our own hearts. I don't mean being toxically positive either. Sometimes things just suck. But like Chuck read in our intro reading, it is 90% how you react to those 10 things that happen to you. I was thinking about all of our civil rights leaders who faced unspeakable and extreme violence and hatred, yet marched down the streets singing songs of hope and resilience. They got that a good attitude wasn't a small thing, but it was an essential thing for their survival. Their music, their laughter, their deep joy in community together was what kept them going, and in turn a big part of what kept that movement alive and keeps it alive. Now, in our own smaller ways, I think we face a similar choice every day. Do we let kind of the anger of the world drag us down or keep us down? Or maybe, just maybe, we practice at letting those things stay a little bit farther and disconnected from us, staying a little bit more grounded. I don't want to use a lot of big buzzwords, but grounded is not a buzzword. Grounded is a real thing. When you get grounded and farther into your body, whatever that looks like for you, do it, find it. Donna, my wife, and I she found actually a great, I'm not giving you a pitch from the pulpit, by the way, a great little acupuncture spot down the road that offers a Qigong class. And I had heard of it and, this and that, but it wasn't until I tried it that I realized, oh, that's what grounding is. They do some standing meditations, and it really talks about going from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet and feeling that. So whatever that is for you, I encourage you to explore that. We would be happy to tell you more about Qigong and just our experiences. But, for us as UU folk, right, I think a good attitude is rooted in our values too. And it's more than simply a feel better tool or a self-help guide, right? It's not just hey, let's have a good attitude about it. I think for some, it's a spiritual practice as well. Every person has inherent worth and dignity. I'll be the first to admit that sometimes when someone isn't driving the way that I want them to, or I see a post online that isn't a post I want them to post, I can forget that momentarily. But it is true. Every person has inherent worth and dignity, even people who are making really dumb decisions. What about justice, equity, and compassion? I don't think we can get there when we are bitter, when we're cynical, when we're consumed in our own despair, or just despair, period. And if I had a favorite principle, this would be it. We believe that we're all part of an interdependent web of all existence. Our mindset is part of that. A sour, hopeless, negative, energy can spread just as quickly as kindness and encouragement. In fact, I think faster. I think negativity probably does spread faster than positivity. We see that right now in our culture. When we nurture the perspective of using kindness, compassion, encouragement, we see ripples of hope going outward. And let me tell you that those ripples do matter. And let me also tell you, if you've been sending out those ripples of hope and it feels like they're falling on ears that are unwilling to hear, remember that the world's still hungry for it. Remember that negativity is contagious. Fear is contagious. Cynicism, contagious. But so is hope. So is compassion. And so is joy. A good attitude really allows us to act from love instead of fear. We live in a time that it's easier to shut down, right? To turn away, to harden our interiors, but still our principles and shared values, they highlight something else. It really kind of calls us to keep our hearts soft but focused, to keep our attitude aligned with our values. I don't think that this means ignoring the pain of the world. I think it means facing it squarely dead on in the face and still choosing to believe that love is stronger than hate, that justice is possible, that communities of care can be built and can be maintained, that true connection is possible when we are together and we remember that a good attitude is more important than simply having the ability to do something. Blessed be, and amen.